Hi, everybody. I'm Alex Paulton. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Talking Timepieces, where we talk about watch collecting and horology. Um, I wanted to be at Watches and Wonders this week, but unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I will be in Nuremberg for the Embedded World Conference, which is a technical conference about embedded electronics for electronic design engineers, talking about the latest microcontrollers and stuff. Just for the heck of it, why not? I just posted a write up on it on electronicdesign.com. And just as an example, I'll read you a couple of the headlines from that um, event, which I'll be at tomorrow. Let's see, Embedded World. So, um, oh, I skipped. Never mind. I'm not going to mess with it. But there's like a ton of um, events. Actually, I just was screwing up because I kept hitting the back button and it wouldn't give it to me. But it happens. But the thing is that I would like to go to Watches and Wonders. And last year, because my show is big enough now that I can go to these places. I mean, I'm a accredited journalist anyway for my day job, but for the watch side of the house, now that I'm over 4,000 subscribers, I'm able to go to events and people actually take notice of the channel. And I was just at the Dusseldorf show, and that's how I managed to get the invitation to go to visit the Frankfurt facility, the headquarters of Zinn. And I'm getting a Laco Frankfurt for test from the Laco people, who are also related. They own Bruno Sundler, who's given me some pieces. So I like to joke that my channel is bouncing along the top of the amateurs or at the bottom of the professionals. I mean, I am a professional. I get paid even for this channel. I make a little bit, um, but I wasn't able to make Watches and Wonders last year. Hey, how's it going, Malad? Long time no see. Nice to see you here. Um, and so this year, I would have loved to go to Watches and Wonders, and I was prepared ahead of time. But then I realized it conflicted with Embedded World. But if you're into heavy technology, I'll just read you a couple of the headlines from the piece I just put together, the pre-show piece. AI solutions, automotive guidance, manufacturing, and smart home apps. Collaboration creates wireless platform for precision irrigation systems. All-in-one tool empowers MEMS sensor evaluation and development. Now, interestingly enough, MEMS stands for micro electromechanical systems, and that's the technology that's now being used to make silicon parts in watches, because at the electronics level, they use those micro mechanical structures to do things like create access, sensors for three-dimensional positioning and all, because they put like a little silicon ingot and they measure the wiggling of the silicon ingot to know where your smartphone is. So that three-axis gyroscope in your cell phone is actually a MEMS device, which is direct relation to the silicon hairspring and escapement in my El Primero Chronomaster. Right, this has a silicon escapement and silicon hairspring, and is a fantastic watch. And I know there are people who don't like silicon parts, but it is a part, so that means you can replace it. And if you were that fanatic, you could actually make a metal part to fit in that space, and it would actually function because it's a mechanical it's a mechanism, and the silicon is just being used as a material. So you could replace that hairspring with a metal hairspring if you were willing to go through the tooling effort to make your hairspring fit in the watch, but it would work. Leveraging Bluetooth sounding signals for positioning accuracy. Now they're starting to use Bluetooth to not just communicate to devices in the room, but to know where in the room they are based on the Bluetooth signal, which is very cool. Processing and connectivity tech, that's the Texas Instruments booth. They have so much stuff there that I can't even get a nailed down headline for them. And neuromorphic front end chip is a 2024 Embedded Award hardware finalist. And AI, you have to make chips that are tailored to run it best, and it works better that way. Micro ATX server carrier board offers scalability to edge computing. Because when we talk about wireless systems, right, there's what we call the cloud, which is just the way we euphemistically talk about the wireless world today. And then when you hear the term edge computing, what that means is, instead of having a dumb device at the edge of the cloud, the edge, that talks to the server, which takes up a lot of bandwidth, radio bandwidth and power and all of that other. If the device itself is smart, then all it has to do is report to the server. The server's not doing any thinking for it. It's doing its thinking for itself. Edge computing. And AI is going to be totally in that. In fact, I was just at the National Instruments facility in Dresden, and they're already actively working on next generation 6G. And 6G is going to incorporate satellite, and it's going to have AI, because they're going to need the AI to do the station keeping and switching and management of the network, because people are going to expect to walk off the plane through the terminal and into the subway and not lose contact. And in the future, you'll have that contact because it'll just switch between whatever band, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, low Ra, 5G, 6G, 3G, whatever's in the neighborhood. The network will be smart enough to adjust it for you. So I'll be at this tech event as opposed to Watches and Wonders, which I wouldn't mind being at. But the reason I mentioned the tech side is because the tech side is the foundation of today's subject, which is the quality of watches is getting so much better at every level because of this manufacturing technology. Is it worth buying a luxury watch? You know, the argument comes at me a lot because when we talk about, say, for example, fakes, the big arguments I get are, oh, the fakes are as good as the real. Why should I buy the real? And the argument is not the quality of the fakes. The argument is that the fakes are fakes. If that fake company took the effort they put into that watch and put their own name on it, Pagani, whatever, Steinhardt, you know, there are companies that make very nice homages and their own name is on it. If these fake companies made watches and put their own name on it, there wouldn't be an argument. Because the reason that these fakes are so much better is because industrial manufacturing technology is so much better. You know, I was just watching Andrew Morgan over, he used to be with Watchfinder. Andrew Morgan. He used to be with Watchfinder, and he went off on his own. Really sharp guy. I watch him all the time. And he was recently talking about, you know, the same thing I've been talking about lately is so many great, inexpensive watches from these micro brands. And some of these micro brands are over a decade old. And that means they're not just micro brands making interesting things. They're micro brands that actually have some experience in fielding product. You know, when you think of somebody like Zelos is crushing it right now. They've got some really nice, they've got that big date skeleton piece that's brand new that I like a lot. And they make some nice meteorite face pieces, and they make all kinds of interesting faces and movements and cases. Their owner is a true believer. So they can do what they're doing and challenge companies like Rolex. The reason that I won't say that they challenge Omega is because Omega still makes, okay, they couldn't challenge the Rolex Sky Dweller because the Sky Dweller is a GMT annual calendar. And I have yet to see an homage, a Chinese movement, a Japanese movement, mechanical annual calendar at a reasonable price. I believe some of the higher end Seikos, you can get an annual calendar, but there is no $500 mechanical annual calendar. Although now there are $500 GMTs and chronographs and the like. So the expansion of manufacturing technology brings more potential complications into the mix to allow people to make different and better watches. I mean, case in point, wristwatch check. I'm wearing the Age Locker Tourbillon. All right. It's a Chinese tourbillon, but at least they're not trying to be an homage to anything. This is the original design of theirs. And the fit and finish on this is awesome. This is an $800 watch. And you couldn't touch you couldn't touch a European made tourbillon for under 15K. Now, yes, that European tourbillon may be more finished, but this is precision machined. Right? So maybe That's why it looks so nice. They're not trying to make it a highly decorated movement. They're trying to make it a nice, clean, precise movement. Is well made. Very the finishing to that point, to making sure the edges are clean and the is not burred, and it looks really nice, and it's well. It exudes an air of being well made, and that's a watch for under $1,000. So the question starts becoming, look at, and you can even look at some of the stuff, for example, out of Germany, right? This Nomos Nomadic, 1,000 feet, 300-meter water resistance, and it's so German. If you unscrew the crown, it shows you a little red marker to show you that the crown is unsecured. Nobody else does that. That's so German. It's so efficient, well engineered, and the like. And it's all party in the back. It's all party in the back to beautiful movement, right? And this is a $3,500 watch, which by some standards is a very expensive piece. Some people aren't even willing to spend that kind of money. But if you're about to drop, 8K at retail versus a third of that for a watch, I would argue higher level of finish, better movement, just an awesome piece, right? At the best, I would say parity, but this has got a date. You can get the highest levels of horology at reasonable prices today because of advanced manufacturing technologies. So, that's, for example, the whole foundation of Frederic Constant, that they are using machine finishing to achieve what hand finishing could do. And they put out some really nice pieces. They have the least expensive perpetual calendar in the industry, under 10K. I think it's 7 and change at retail right now. So I'm not saying that luxury watches are not to be bought at all, but what I'm saying is that are the luxury watches that are priced that high just because of their branding, are they still worth buying? What are your thoughts? Let's see. Oh, B-Matic, how's it going? Any new watches in my sight? I have like I said, I think I mentioned it in one of the earlier. I have a vintage Omega alarm I'm looking at, and he only wants 1,600 for it, so I'll probably get it. But I'm really thinking about getting one of the Snoopy Moon watches, because I'm going to the States in May, and so I'll be going through duty free, and I've had luck in duty free buying obscure moon swatches, because you don't get that much traffic, and not everybody's no one's going to go to the departure lounge at Frankfurt to go shop for a swatch. So maybe I'll see one. If I don't see one, I'll go to the swatch store in Manhattan, because I'll be in New York, and I'm really thinking about getting the black, probably, moon swatch. Maybe I'll get both, because they're overpriced for what you are getting, a plastic watch, but they're not for because that's the thing of, that comes back to also, are luxury watches worth buying? Because the moon swatches aren't luxury watches, but the legacy, the reason we want them, is based on the luxury watch. But then again, the original Speedmaster wasn't considered a luxury watch. It was considered a tool watch for racers. So if we're lucky, maybe we're coming to a new partitioning of the marketplace, because a lot of Swiss manufacturers went to the high end to save themselves during the quartz wars. And I call them wars and not the quartz crisis, because it was really a trade war between Japan and Switzerland. Because when people say, oh, the watch market would disappear, no, it wouldn't. Quartz watch is a watch. And there were other companies making watches at the time. Bulova was still in New York, So the quartz crisis was a crisis to the Swiss watch industry. I think if you look at it, you could almost say that it's still going on because of smartwatches. And now we have the micro brands coming in, right? And all the panic and rending of clothing over inexpensive Japanese quartz. What about inexpensive German mechanical, or inexpensive Chinese mechanical? the market is going to continue to evolve. And frankly, we have never been in this situation in the marketplace. We have never. Hey, Miranda, B Matic, I bought the Rattle Gold Horse. You did get it. Very cool. Very cool. 1200. That's a good buy. A good buy. Nice watch, well made, interesting heritage, looks nice. And you're happy with it, you know, because you should also always buy a watch for yourself, not for other people. Miranda, nice to see you. Hello, good show. Thank you. I tried a revised two-tone sub in a shop recently, but decided against it. I found it overpriced. I find I'm happy with my existing collection, and there is no Rolex in it. Greetings from Switzerland. Well, and you don't need a Rolex in your collection. I have a Rolex in my collection, but I've rotated Rolexes through my collection because I have a love-hate relationship with Rolex. And right now, for example, I'm debating, since I have this Nomos, which is such a fantastic sports piece, in a similar vein. I don't even know where I put the. Oh, there it is. In a similar vein to the Air King, but I really do like the Air King because it's such not a Rolex. It is a Rolex, and it is actually very Rolex because it's got, it's the only one with the green logo and the gold. It's printed, but it actually is very Rolex. The design is based on dashboard clock not clock, dashboard instruments that they made for the world record-breaking land speed record vehicle. But this is almost a third of the price, and it is an awesome, awesome watch. So, but then the legacy of these companies becomes a question. Like I was saying with Omega and the Moonswatch. The Moonswatch is a fun piece, but the reason that we are interested in it is because it is a plastic special edition of an ultra classic. I mean, arguably, it's not the best made watch on the planet. It's not the best finished. It's not the best finished watch on the planet. It's not the most expensive watch, but it is the coolest. The Speedmaster is the coolest until some other watch saves a bunch of astronauts' lives on the way to Mars or something. Nothing's going to beat the Speedmaster for coolness because it literally went with the humans that explored the farthest that have ever done in our history and saved their lives. So that aspect of but then it comes back to, I don't know if you could really call it luxury. Yes, Omega is a luxury watch company, but the Speedmaster was originally a tool watch. So I think it comes back to what I had said a little bit earlier is with luck, maybe we're seeing a new partitioning of the marketplace to luxury, right? Because a lot of the companies went luxury to save themselves during the quartz crisis. Premium, which would then include all of these watches in the $500 to $1,500 range from micro brands and also from some of the mainstream premium Swiss brands like Oris and Mido and Hamilton, which used to be an American company. Longines, I think, is in between the premium and the luxury. You could almost, I don't like the term entry level. I would call it basic, but Longines has got pieces that everyone would love. I mean, if you don't like one of the Longines pieces, they definitely make something else that you would like. Now, is saying our luxury watch is worth it and say buy a Longines, to a lot of people, a Longines is a very expensive piece. So we have to start thinking about relativity, right? As watch collectors, what is expensive? What is cheap? What is luxury? Right? A lot of serious watch collectors would think nothing of just getting this as a beater. Oh yeah, good beater, nice watch, well made. Not a Rolex, because unfortunately market presence is on people's minds, right? So we have to start thinking about that market presence as well. So you've got legacy, value, and marketing, right? So Nomos doesn't have any marketing, although Nomos has the best kind of marketing. It has word of mouth marketing. I've never heard anybody say anything negative about Nomos, right? Or if you look at something like a classic like Breitling Navitimer, right? This is the GMT. Um, Breitling is one of those companies that some people perceive as premium and some perceive as luxury. They just bought Universal Genève, and I know they're going to come out at the high end with the Universal Genève pieces because they see Universal Genève as a way of becoming true luxury, as it were. They'll have Breitling to be their tool watches, and they'll have Universal Genève to be their luxury. Now, but where do you draw the line? At what point is the watch worth it or not worth it? Um, you know, this Zenith El Primero Chronomaster, right? The latest iteration of this retails for 9K, right? It's a beautiful watch. Be hard pressed to find something this well made and finished with this complication, high beat chrono. But you can get close to it for a significantly lower price. So it all becomes a decision that you have to make as well. Is that worth it to you? Because, like I was saying, I get all these people who say, oh, these fakes and the quality and all. I'm like, the quality isn't the issue. It's a fake that's the issue. Now, if you're that fixated with the branding that you're willing to buy the fake and you want to get a good fake so it's not going to look cheesy or that it'll at least work well, but it's still a fake. Why not buy that Hamilton, that Breitling, that Mito, that Tissot, you know? So we get caught up as watch collectors in this yin and yang between value and impression and where do you start, where do you end? Are we wearing the watch to impress other people? Are we wearing a watch as a sign of where our status is? Are we measuring something with our watch? Then it brings in other value factors. That's why I always say buy the watch for yourself, not for other people. Because if you're buying the watch for other people, you will never be satisfied. Because you have a Rolex, they would say, well, you don't have an AP. You get the AP, well, you don't have a Patek. You get the Patek, they'll say you don't have a Grubel Forsey. There's always a bigger fish. So if you try to get into watch collecting and chase down that rabbit hole, you're not going to be happy. And which is why people turn to fakes, because they can't get that Patek for 150,000. So why not spend 1,500? Too much money. Spend $1,500 on a super clone, because that's another aspect of the market that has changed because of technology. What was considered a super clone 10 years ago was considered a decent copy today, because now you can throw things into a CNC machine. You could take that Patek apart and laser scan the components and have a CNC machine grind you out a copy of that watch. But it's not cheap, and they are rare as hell. A lot of fake watches pass through my hands because I have friends and I'm always trying to talk them out of the fake watches they may be wearing. And sometimes they have them in a drawer and they bring them to me because they know I'll give them some cash for that piece of crap fake, because I smash it on the show. And I see a lot of fakes, and I have yet to see a super clone that has all the functionality. And I've seen videos of some of these, right? I've seen videos of some of the super clone perpetual calendars. They exist. But they're as rare as the real one. They cost less. But so what? People are chasing the exclusivity of the fake? Buy a Jaeger-LeCoultre. I mean, this watch used, it retails new for around 9.5, but it sells used between around 6, right? The Rolex retails for 7 and change, and currently roughly 9 box and papers, right? This is a better watch. I mean, it's really a better watch than that Rolex. I mean, it's a JLC. It's got the 1,000-hour movement in it. It's a hand-finished case. There are other alternatives. Now, the funny thing is, this is a luxury watch, right? So if I'm saying don't buy maybe is it worth buying luxury watches? Maybe I'm really asking, is it worth buying some luxury watches? Are they worth it? Are they worth it to you? But then that's what I love about the show is that it's about. I want to make the show as much about why we buy watches, what our philosophy behind them, because we can always talk about the marketplace and who's up and who's down. But why do you buy the watch that you have? What are your thoughts going into that process? What are the things about the marketplace that affect watch buying, not dollars and cents or who's up and who's down, but what market impulses are forcing you to make choices about the watch you're buying? You know, the market presence, the marketing, the quality, the style, the finishing, the look, the like, the love. But it should be a highly personal experience. You should be buying that watch for yourself and nobody else. The moment you start armchair quarterbacking who's going to like your watch and what they're going to think about it, you get on a treadmill of death. You're never going to stop running because you're never going to satisfy everybody. You're always going to find someone to find something wrong with the watch you're wearing because that's just how some people are. So if you're chasing that, you're never going to be happy. But if you buy a watch that you're happy for yourself and maybe it has a little bit of story, a little bit of history, something you can talk about, then you're a collector and you can exchange your thoughts and ideas with other collectors. And a true collector is not going to look at your watch and just judge you based on how much you spent on it. If they really care about watches and you really bought one because of a reason that you enjoy and that you're willing to share, they'll listen to you and they'll enjoy that story because they're a collector and they know what you're trying to talk about. You know, it is a highly personal thing. It should be a highly personal thing. And the moment you start thinking about how other people will react is the moment you start backsliding into that's where fake watches come from. You want to impress them, but you can't jump as high as you'd like. But why? Why? Are you going to buy a fake Ferrari kit car? Wear a uniform so you can get on an airplane first, even though you're not in the military? You know. Let's see. Pet Brex. Hey, how's it going? I would like to see the petrol Nomos. Um, I'm not sure which one that is, but Nomos. I mean, the nice thing about Nomos is you can buy them at retail. You go to a Nomos retailer, and there's no fake waiting list or nothing. They might not have it in stock, but they'll order it and you'll get it in a reasonable period of time. You know, you can get a Neomatic. I mean, I saw one at retail, and they're also available in different sizes, right? Where and colors. Whereas some companies charge extra for colors. I never quite understood that, but if you're binning your product and you want people to really really shell out extra, you make it blue and then charge them extra. Or actually, in the case of Rolex, the blue means it's a white gold piece, so at least that designates something. But a Hulk is just a green sub, you know. But then again, I'm not quite sure. The Hulk might actually be at retail the same price as the sub, but it's just overpriced on the gray. But again, chasing marketing, chasing impression. For that money, buy yourself something that you really enjoy. Give you some traction. Have some fun with it. Buy vintage. I just got this back from my watchmaker. This is a Universal Genève Senna. It's got a Value 7750 in it. Really nice piece. 200 meters water resistant. Chrono day date. And it's a licensed Senna racer. I mean, it's named the Senna with license from the Senna estate. So weirdly enough, it might actually wind up eventually being worth more as a racing piece of memorabilia as opposed to a watch, because the Universal Genève Senna was their last attempt at making a mainstream sports watch before they became a Chinese boutique brand. They had just been bought by the Chinese company, which owned Universal Genève when they made the Senna. But the Senna was made in Switzerland, and it was a real intent to make a mainstream watch. And it is a nice watch. You should check out the video I made on it. But it wasn't nice enough to save the company. But now Breitling has it, so I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. Wouldn't it be funny if one of the pieces they reintroduced was the Senna? Because the Senna is a sports chronograph, and Breitling makes sports chronographs. I mean, we know they're going to make a pole router. They got it. I mean, if they're going to reintroduce Universal Genève, they got to make a pole router and they got to make a tri-compax. But who knows what else they might make? Why not a Senna? Let's see. Miranda, fully agree. There are beautiful Longines at reasonable price. Also, Maurice Lacroix, some unique watches are great in the lower price segment and also in the higher price segments. I've had several Maurice Lacroix pieces. I had their annual calendar big date chrono, which was a really nice piece. Um, but I have too many pieces in my collection, so I moved it along after a while. Although I don't regret selling it, but I wouldn't mind having it back in the collection if it like fell out of the sky in front of me again. And I actually reviewed the Tide, the plastic one, gave that one to my daughter, and I got the GMT, the Maurice Lacroix, the AP lookalike. The I forget the name of it off the top of my head. I got their GMT and wound up selling it to a good friend of mine. But I've had several Maurice Lacroix, and they're Icon, the Icon. I've had several Maurice Lacroix, and they are fantastic, reasonably priced pieces. I would put Maurice Lacroix and Longines at roughly the same level. They both have really nice pieces. I think Longines a little bit. Well, I think Longines has their stuff together more because I don't think there's anything. I think Maurice Lacroix and Longines are roughly the same quality and fit and finish, but Longines got their stuff together more. Although the Icon is giving Maurice Lacroix a lot of traction, but I think both companies are really good, personally. You know, and I've owned both, and I keep thinking about getting the new Longines Hydra Conquest GMT because that's a really nice piece. But I'd have to sell my. See, that's why I sell pieces. I have so many pieces. I keep buying pieces. I won't have. If I could, if anybody wants to buy a Ratto Captain Cook Chrono, let me know. Because if I sold that, I would probably buy the Longines, or I might hop a train back out to Dresden because I saw an Apollo 8, first generation Apollo 8, Dark Side of the Moon. Although they want a lot of money for it, but I have to sell a piece to do any of those things. But then again, that's what it's all about. When you're a collector, you're buying, sometimes you're selling, you're always researching the next piece. Like I said, per the earlier question, I'm really thinking about getting the Snoopy Moon Swatch because it has a moon phase, which is one of my favorite complications. And I currently don't own a moon phase. And I just sold my other moon swatches. I had a mission to Mars and a mission to Mercury and sold them to a friend. So I currently don't have a moon swatch. So if I bought Snoopy moon swatch, which color, black or white? Well, those aren't colors, but black or white. But I wouldn't mind getting my hands on one of them. And like I said, I'm looking at this vintage Omega alarm watch. Other than that, unless I sold a couple of pieces, I'm really not looking for anything heavy right now because I don't have the money in the war chest right now. And as I've always said, never buy a watch on credit. Always save up for one. So probably by the end of the year, I'll have enough money saved up to start looking around and seeing if I want to get something, especially if I sell one of my other pieces. But you never know. Let's see. The Club Sport Neomatic. Oh, Petro. Oh, the color green. Yeah, green is and I've seen the green Nomoses. They've got a couple of different shades. I think they get the light and the dark, but they're just really well. Frankly, any green. I love the color green. Uh, green is a hot watch color right now too. So yeah, go for it. And the thing is that you should be able to find one at retail or at least be able to order it without like a significant amount of heavy lifting because Nomos is pretty accessible. The Polar also, yeah, why not? Miranda, wearing fakes is lying to yourself, in my opinion. Better wear an affordable, genuine watch and be proud of it. Exactly. I say it all the time. A fake is a lie, and the first person you're lying to is yourself. But like I was saying, this whole thing about better watches, unfortunately, has helped the fake movement as well. But the nice thing is it's helped the micro brand space, and it's helped the mainstream companies do more with less, and the micro brands to do a lot with nothing. So we've got, I mean, just think about some of the really nice Fulan Mari, Zelos, just so many good companies out there. Shinola. Just think of all these micro brands that are enabled by the democratization of advanced manufacturing. I mean, in one sense, we're almost back to the 70s again, where people were buying cases and movements from different suppliers and building watches. In fact, I would say that's, if it weren't for the fact that we have the stratification, because in the 70s you didn't, I mean, there were luxury watches, but there wasn't but what we used to consider premium watches weren't luxury then. The Speedmaster in the 70s wasn't considered a luxury watch, it was considered a premium watch. Ditto Seamasters and even Daytonas. They were considered tool watches, high-end tool watches, but not luxury watches. Like Cartier has always been a luxury watch manufacturer. They've made tool watches. The Santos was originally made as a tool watch back in 1904, but they've always been pretty much a luxury manufacturer, as other companies. And Hermes um, makes some fantastic pieces a lot of people don't know. Van Cleef and Arpels makes some fantastic pieces, horologically significant pieces. Um, so luxury watches existed back then as well, but we didn't have the massive luxury watch market that we have now, because the Swiss watch market went upstream to save itself during the quartz wars. So now that they've gone up there and they've created this bastion of expensive stuff, we have all of these now mainstream brands and micro brands that are making really good watches that challenge the high end pieces, except for the ones with high complications and high levels of finishing. Today, a $2,000 watch can challenge arguably anything under 10K. Unless there's some funky complication. Like, that's why I was saying, I was talking about Omega. They do make annual calendars and tourbillons and repeaters. And you're not going to get a chronograph repeater anytime soon from a micro brand. But we will eventually. I mean, not today, not tomorrow, but I'm looking forward to seeing the next major complication that starts popping up in inexpensive pieces. Potentially moon phase, now that the moon swatch has got the Snoopy moon phase out. And moon phase is not a complicated complication to field. So maybe we'll see more moon phases out there in the micro brands. Uh, Other than that, I mean, we were seeing big dates. We are seeing tourbillons, but we haven't seen the big, I would say the hard ones now are the calendars, annual calendar, perpetual calendar. And we have the Sunnery, right, in the Opus from spacing, but it'll come back to me. We've got the one that rings once an hour, and there are repeaters out there that cost tens of thousands of dollars. So to have a Sunnery for 5,000 isn't bad, but I mean, it just rings once an hour with one ping. It's a Sunnery, but it's working it really hard. I'm waiting to see more of those kinds of complicated complications in the marketplace, because now they're more physically possible. I mean, if the Chinese can make a tourbillon for under $1,000, why couldn't they make an annual calendar for under $1,000? In one sense, it's more complicated, but in another sense, it's just machine manufacturing, machining. Why not more moon phases? I was never a big fan of, I mean, not a fan of, but I never thought saw the real value in a power reserve. It's a nice feature. Um, but either you're wearing the watch and you're keeping it wound or you're not. Um, I think power reserve in and of itself is almost a useless specification because uh, a watch, if it's got 40 hours of power reserve, that's plenty. And if you see the lengths that companies are going to go to significantly long power reserves, they're cutting corners on the movement. You know, at best they're slowing it down. At worst, they're doing what the PRX did and put plastic parts in it. You know, reduce the weight and increase the you don't you know, plastic on plastic doesn't need lubrication, things of that nature. Going overboard to increase the power reserve so they can say Powermatic 80, I'd have been happy with a Powermatic 60 with a metal escapement. You know, I don't condemn them because they're an inexpensive piece, and you know, you pay your money, you take your choice. So I'm not one of those people who condemn the PRX for having plastic parts, but I do point out that there are better alternatives than out there, right? Christopher Ward, that's the Bel Canto, the Sunnery. But there are better pieces out there. In the Christopher Ward 12, you know, which my friend is buying, so I'll have an opportunity to review it for the show. I'm looking forward to that. There are some really good, inexpensive pieces. Laco's going to send me a Frankfurt to review for the show as well, so we'll get a chance to do that. I haven't done a review for this yet, and I've been wearing it. I've really, you know, this is the Chinese watch to make you respect Chinese watches. It really is. Although Sega Design, the Blue Planet won 2 years ago, won the Geneva Horological Award in the challenge category under 3,500 euros. Chinese company, first time and the Blue Planet's a fantastic design made by a Chinese company. So the democratization of horology, the ability to make nice watches, very nice watches at reasonable prices. I think it's going to. Well, that's the thing about the luxury market is they don't really care about us anyway. The luxury market, the Rolex doesn't want people like me buying their watches anyway. They don't want collectors buying. They want rich people buying their pieces to show off to other rich people so that they want to go buy them. Um, the whole aspect of being a collector doesn't fit with some of the luxury brands' mentalities. Like JLC just raised their prices across the board a year ago, 40%, just to reposition the brand. Not because it cost them more money. They just thought, no, we need to make more money. We want these priced more. We want them priced more expensively to put us in a higher bracket in the luxury market. You know, I couldn't afford to buy my Polaris now. And so maybe we should think more about Nomos, Longines, Mido, Oris, right? Bulova, even Timex. Definitely Zelos, Boulder, Shinola. There are just so many good companies out there that offer alternatives now to the expensive luxury pieces. And if you can afford a luxury piece, go for it. By all means, wear whatever you want, you know. But if you think about it, you know, let's use cars as an analogy. A top of the line Passat. The Mercedes is more luxurious, but if I ran a micrometer down the seams, the Passat's got the fit and finish. The body panels are fitted just as well on the Passat as they are on the Mercedes. The suspension is, I mean, we're talking about, German Autobahn cruisers. The suspension is just as tight on both vehicles. The Mercedes might have nicer leather. The interior is going to probably be more tweaked up, but the fit and finish of the engine parts, the transmission, the suspension, the body panels, about the same, you know? And there's been a dichotomy in the car industry in that space, but watches are a little different because they're also a little bit more personal goods. But there is an argument to be made. I mean, I was saying this is the year of the micro brands. There's an argument to be made that the micro brands and the mainstream premium watch space is going to offer so much value that it may not be viable to buy a luxury piece. What are your thoughts? Let's see. Hey, Daniel, greetings from San Antonio. Miranda, Certina automatics instead of TISO, similar Powermatic but no plastic parts. The Certina titanium diver. Yeah, there you go. That's nice. Or Longines. Longines uses, well, they don't use the Powermatic 80, they use ETA movements, but ETA makes special movements for them. Their master collection, for example, the master collection chrono day date moon phase is a Valjoux 7751, but theirs is a column wheel. ETA makes a column wheel version for Longines, Longines only. So if you buy a master collection Longines chrono, it's a column wheel, even though it's from ETA, because Longines gets it like that. So Peprex, the way prices are going, I won't be able to afford any in a few years. Well, that's the thing about luxury. The luxury market really doesn't care about us anyway. And so maybe it is time to spend more time looking at the mainstream, the Hamiltons, the Longines, the Mitos, the Oris, the Zellos, the Boulders, the Shinolas, the Citizens. Because now it's more about the design style and marketing and less about the machining and the fit and finish, because everybody's using CNC machines now. Nobody's using a drill press with somebody pulling a lever. Everything now is machine finished. And then the higher end companies finish the machine finish by hand. But even the highest companies are making the blank plates, at least stampings or machined and then hand finished. And then some companies do all the finishing by machine. And frankly, it's hard to tell which is which up to a certain point. I mean, anglage, the rounding of the edges of everything, anglage is still pretty much a hands-on thing. Although some companies do at least smooth the edges, but you can tell the difference optically between a machined anglage and a hand anglage to date. But unless you're pushing that level of horology, a mainstream piece is now as good as, I was saying, when you think about the Rolex, right? A Rolex is a machine finished, hand assembled, assembly line watch, right? This, like I keep coming back to the Nomos. This watch has got, with Glashütte, they're very, very hands-on, heavy horological history, and a third of the price. So I guess it's really not so much a question as, are luxury watches worth it, but which luxury watches are still worth it? Let's see. We're almost at the top of the hour, and I'm pretty much, I said my piece. Like I was saying, it really is up to you. It's an incredibly personal decision, but the less you worry about what other people think, the happier you're going to be with your decision. And the big question is, are luxury watches still worth the extreme premium? Because back in the day they were, because the finishing was demonstrably better. The quality was demonstrably better. But nowadays, if I can get, 1 micron precision out of a $1,000 watch, then that $10,000 watch has really got to swing high to get my attention, Hey, you have a nice week too. On that note, I will call it a day. Have a fantastic week. Love you all. I'll be at Embedded World Conference, but I still have the third Zin video where they go through some of their new releases. So I'll edit that up. I have the video on hand, so I'll edit that up and I'll post it during the week. So you have at least something from me this week, and then we'll get together next week. Have a fantastic week and have a great evening.